Jen Mall, and welcome to Nurse Connect. I am an RN and a board certified nurse coach. I believe that connecting with others is essential to living a happy and fulfilled life, and that sharing our stories not only helps us to heal ourselves, but also helps others by inspiring hope and optimism. I am so grateful to share stories of these incredible nurses on their journey, and I encourage you to find a way to share yours too. Thanks for listening in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Nurse Connect podcast. I'm Jen Mall, and I'm super happy to have Sabrina here with me. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm excited.
Good. I'm super happy to have you. We connected a couple months ago on a mutual nurse coach friend's career day, Michaela. She's amazing. And I was like, I really want to have you on. So thank you for saying yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So I start off with everybody just because this is a nurse focused podcast. I love sharing stories of nurses. I just feel that we all have a similar yet often very different path of how we became a nurse, what our journey has been, and what lessons we've learned along the way, and to bringing us up to today, what we're doing. So, would you mind taking us back? How did you become a nurse, and kind of what has been your journey?
Wow. So I recently reflected that it has been about 10 years since I started. I should say maybe around 14, because I do consider being a CNA,
Yeah.
starting that journey. So yeah, it's been a long journey. So yeah, I went to nursing school and did my clinicals and everything in Kansas City, Missouri.
Mm.
And to kind of take a step backwards,
Yeah.
I actually didn't initially want to be a nurse. I mean, it's not that I didn't want to be
Sure. It
one,
wasn't
but it's
called
not the
to.
first. Yeah, right. I just remember sitting in a junior year class doing research about the career we wanted to continue with, and it was actually a vet tech.
Mm.
So I did my project over that, and I think my money scarcity mindset kicked
Mm.
in, and the one I was programmed with, and that we
Yeah.
all are to a point. So yeah, I just ended up switching over to nursing. I knew that I could create an abundant career for
Mhm.
myself that way more easily. And so yeah, that started in Kansas City, Missouri. And of course, when I graduated, you apply to every job you can get
Mhm.
or find. So I ended up in the CCU.
Mm.
And yeah, so I was there for almost a couple years,
Yeah.
learned a lot, but still felt like I wasn't in complete alignment. I could feel my body tensing up
Mm.
and, my heart racing, even after, a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
So I ended up switching specialties to the procedural area. I thought
Yeah.
that would be more in my flow. So I did that for most of my career
Mhm.
as an EP nurse, a little bit of cath lab, an echo nurse as well. Um, and then, yeah, this whole time I just felt like more and more I was being called on a different path.
Mm.
And yeah, there was a lot of things, a lot of experiences that happened in between
Mhm.
that ended up taking me on this different route.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's
about it.
awesome. And what is different mean to you?
I just remember thinking about in nursing school, that question of, do you want to work in a doctor's office or a
Mm.
hospital? Those are
Mm.
your only choices.
Mhm.
So I guess different to me means different as in what mainstream Western
Mm.
care is considered as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit more about that. What types of work do you do now?
So right now I am a spiritual women's coach, and uh, I just recently got comfortable with that term because this last year was my first year in business.
Yeah.
So I am all into like the energetics as far as like Reiki, getting into somatic healing, just anything that can bring us to connect more with our bodies
Mhm.
and bring out that innate healing process that
Mhm.
we have, that we're able to connect with within ourselves.
Mhm.
So yeah, what else am I doing? Yeah, women's healing circles. just all about,
Beautiful.
connection and healing in a natural way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And are you still working in the hospital at all, or in a traditional nursing role?
I am not. I,
Incredible.
yeah, I tried to do that part-time
Yeah.
while I was building my
Yeah.
business. And it got to a point where I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to be all in.
Good for
So
you.
that's when I just left
Yeah.
and went all in.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that we're seeing a lot more of that. And
Yeah,
there's some people that automatically go, well, if all the nurses leave, what are we going to do? And it's
right.
like, well, not all the nurses are going to leave because not everybody is open to different paths, right?
Exactly.
But
Yes.
I think those of us that are being called to do something different, still,
Hmm.
maybe connected to nursing, but where I think we're being called to help those that are still in the field and that still want to work clinically in those settings. But I think we also have an opportunity to do things differently. And,
Yes.
so that may look like, what you're doing. It may look like more traditional coaching. I'm doing some work directly in the hospital with nurses, with coaching and wellness programs. So I think it takes us looking outside the box and
Yeah.
finding different ways to help with healing and on different people's journeys to make this all work, because we can't keep
Yeah.
going the way it's been going.
I know. Yeah, it's amazing all the different paths you can take that
Mhm,
we never even knew when we
mhm.
started.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of these terms may or may not be familiar to some folks. So like the Reiki, the somatic healing, can you explain a little bit more about those different modalities?
Sure. So Reiki is a Japanese healing technique. Um, it's mainly referred to hands-on, but it can also be hands-off
Mm,
because I do a lot of distance healing as
yeah.
well. So it really is about acting as a channel and bringing in that universal life force energy that we have within us, that we have all around us, and taking that high frequency energy that also operates on the frequency of unconditional love and kind of absorbing it, well, to the person that's receiving it, letting that energy flow through them, and
Mhm,
anything that's not operating at that frequency can then be healed
mm,
and released
mhm,
or rebalanced.
mhm. And so what types of, um, because I think most of us probably wait until we have a physical complaint.
Yeah.
That we've
Right.
tried lots of things before we, I don't know. I almost think that energy work was my last resort because it seemed so weird. Like that, how does this
Right.
actually work? And
Yeah.
as I, struggled with a lot of somatic complaints that related to energy that I had retained with previous traumas. And as I finally started to open up to exploring energy work with Reiki and different modalities, it's like, oh, this stuff works really good.
I
So
know.
what are types of things that people usually come to for, treatments?
It honestly, the span is so wide. Like people
Mhm.
can come in if they're not feeling centered,
Mm,
having a lot of anxiety, or
mhm,
having trouble um, managing their depression. Yeah, any kind of stress management, improvement in mood, or even if they are having pain
mhm,
anywhere and it's like nothing else
mhm,
is working. And sometimes, what
mhm,
clients come to me and say, and they have a session, and we can clear a lot of those blockages in
mhm.
that area causing inflammation and pain.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know the answer to this, but does it hurt?
No, it does not hurt.
No.
I mean, you can have like a pretty powerful experience emotionally.
Yeah.
So it can be painful in that way,
Mhm.
but the after effects are usually, worth it. You feel much lighter and
Yes.
you get that, flow of chi flowing
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. And I'll say that several times I've had it done now is just this intense, like intense in a positive way, but this relaxation
Yeah.
of just, allowing the energy to work and to flow and to, it's
Yes.
just calm and peaceful. Now I have had a really severe reaction afterwards of the next couple days, it almost felt like a purging. Like I was physically
Yeah.
very ill, and I know that's not super common, but that it
Mhm.
can. And that was the first time I had energy work done because I had so much built up. And so it was just like 2 to 3 days of feeling like I had a crappy flu. And
Yeah.
of course I tried to rationalize it. Oh, I must have just picked something up. But the more I've learned about it, the more I've realized that no, that was the bad energy getting out of my body
Right.
and flushing my system. And then after that, the physical symptoms that I had, like I had a lot of eyelid twitching.
Mhm.
And so that finally released, and some other joint pain issues. So it was pretty incredible to finally be open to experiencing that energy work
Right.
and healing and allowing it to work the magic, I like to call it.
Yeah.
So it can be icky sometimes just to get all the crap out, but for the most part, all my experiences have been really positive, especially during the sessions.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like it's really hard to comprehend what a lot of these modalities do. And then
Yeah.
once you experience them, it's like,
Yes.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the main questions I get too is, what am I supposed to experience?
Yeah.
And I kind of relate that back to meditation.
Hmm.
There's no certain experience to be had. There are all these things that you might feel,
Hmm.
but when it comes down to it, Reiki energy is just going to flow where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not going to have you're not going to see colors or feel physical sensations. Um, but where was I going with that?
It's just about the experience that you
Yeah,
think you're supposed to have versus what may or may not happen.
right.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, just to release expectations
Mhm.
and let that energy, healing energy move through you.
Yeah.
And yeah, the bare minimum, I feel like everyone walks away feeling relaxed and
Yes.
much lighter. So I feel like that's a win
Yes,
no matter
for
what.
sure. For sure. Because if all you did was just take, anywhere up from, I mean, you can have quick Reiki treatments, but sometimes they're, up to an hour or so.
Right. Yes.
And so if all you walk away with was just having an hour to rest and relax,
Yeah.
that sounds like a win.
Right.
Yeah. And I've experienced that like I've had an hour massage, which is incredible. And I've had an
Mhm.
hour Reiki session, and I felt just as relaxed and ooey gooey walking out of
Yeah.
there with not even having them physically put their hands on me, just having that
Yeah.
energy move through. So that's
Right.
beautiful.
Yeah. It's amazing. I really do respect that modality so much.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredible. And when you talked about, it can be hands-on, it can be in
Mhm.
person, hands off too, and then distance. So how does that work? Like if we're literally sitting across Zoom, how does that, work? Because we're all we're
Yeah.
nurses,
Yeah.
right? We want that
I
like
know.
logical thinking.
Yeah. Honestly, when I first started it and started learning that you can do distance, I was like, I don't understand how that can work or how that
Yeah.
can provide an experience. But
Hmm.
then I started to understand more that because Reiki is energy healing and this life force energy that's everywhere and all around us, within us, it knows no time or space.
Hmm.
So as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't register
Yeah.
what we register as being a barrier.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can attest to that because I've had several treatments virtually, including our session with you, and you did it with a group, and
Yeah.
it was just so beautiful and relaxing. And
Thank you. I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
yeah, absolutely. And so then the other thing you mentioned was somatic work. So what do you
Yeah.
do in that space?
Okay. So I am a beginner in this work.
Mhm.
So I may not be explaining it definition wise. I'm just going to say like how I experience
Yes.
it.
Perfect.
So somatic healing is when we use our unconscious mind
Okay.
to connect with what is repressed in our system.
Mhm.
So it's like because I mean, I feel like a lot of us, you can feel those blockages.
Yeah.
And
The
yeah.
achy stiff shoulders, the pelvis that feels congested and
Mhm.
yucky. And yeah.
Yeah, even if it's like emotionally, it's like something
Yes.
is stuck within me. And we don't really take the time to be like, to ask it questions or ask ourselves
Mm,
questions like, where is this in our body? Um, does it feel new or old? What does it want to say?
yeah.
Just getting more, um, meeting that blockage where it is
Yeah.
and working with it so that it can be released or at least more up in the surface than it was
Mhm.
before.
Mhm. And how do you do that? How do you work with it to release it?
So far, it's like there's a couple exercises that you can walk people through.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier, different questions like, oh, what color is it? Or what shape is it? Is it old? Is it new? What is it trying to say? What does it
Mhm.
need from you? And you
Mhm.
spend like sometimes, I would say usually like at least 30 minutes
Yeah.
being with this space in your body that is needing your attention and probably has been for a long time.
Mhm. And we've been ignoring it,
Yeah,
which is why it doesn't go away.
right. And what we don't realize is a lot of these blockages or, emotions that are being or that have been trapped in our bodies
Mhm.
for a long time, all they really do is they just want to be seen and validated,
Mm.
and um, they need your love and compassion instead of judgment. So
Mhm.
it's just, you know, giving it a hug and just talking with it.
Yeah, and I think especially as nurses, we've essentially been trained to ignore all of that.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yes.
our job is to take care of other humans, and
Hmm.
so we can't shut that off. There's
Right.
probably a reason why most of us were drawn to nursing because we're natural caregivers, even as a vet, right? Like you're
Yeah.
caring and compassion for another creature, human or animal, like that is an innate drive. But there's probably something in your childhood that pushed you that direction to become a natural caregiver. So a lot of
Yeah.
us as nurses, yes, our job is to take care of other people, but yet we can't like shut that off to actually pause and listen to
Right.
ourselves and what we need.
Yeah. And outside of that, I mean, society is like busy, busy, busy. I mean, that's what we feel like we have to do. It's just not, we don't have the space to do that. We don't give ourselves the space, is
Right.
what I should say.
Yeah.
So it's just a reminder that sometimes we need to slow down and do those check-ins with, our emotions and in our body.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And remind me, what you're calling yourself as a coach, women's, sorry,
It's okay. I've been calling myself a spiritual coach for women just
spiritual
because
coach
I'm
for women.
just getting more and more into all the modalities. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, I'm very passionate about helping women heal.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So when somebody works with you, what are the types of, I mean, I imagine probably the Reiki and the somatic work is playing into that. How when somebody's coming to you, what is kind of your approach to exploring this?
That's a good question. I would say initially, I'm very interested to know what their end goal is.
Mm.
I love Dharma coaching or soul purpose coaching.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
also try to intertwine all of that because that's also like our most authentic self, our higher self. So I think that's very important spiritually and,
Mm.
how we move through the world or
Yeah.
our lives. So yeah, I try to get out of them. Like, what would you do if you didn't have all of these restraints or
Mm.
limitations on yourself? What would you do if it didn't matter about money or time? And then I finally get the answer out. And then we kind of go backwards and explore, well, why not? What's keeping you from getting to this point?
Mm.
And so a lot of the times, like limiting beliefs come up,
Mhm.
um, and we start kind of working through like reprogramming and healing through those modalities. And also if they're interested in like a group women's healing session as well, just to, have that community to support them as well. I think that's very important.
That's beautiful. I know it took me like crashing and burning to even be
Yeah,
open to starting to
several times.
explore that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it just never felt like I was allowed to think about what my purpose was. I just had my
Yeah.
head down. I'm a nurse and I do my thing. And
Hmm.
so once I finally opened to that, though, you do kind of need a guide because it's very
Yeah.
overwhelming and it feels selfish and
Yeah. And scary.
yeah, and it's
It's
scary.
scary to be like, oh, this path doesn't look like it's been walked too much before. Like, is it going to
Yes.
be okay?
Yes. Is it okay that I do this? Am I
Hmm.
allowed to want what is in my heart and in my soul? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. And it's nice to have someone there next to you to be like,
Yeah.
yes, you're going to be okay. You're going to be more than okay. Just keep
Yeah.
going this way.
Yeah. And I do love that you incorporate the women's circles, the healing circles
Yeah.
element and with others, because I agree, like having that community of again, you might not all look exactly the same, might not all have the same path and journey, but we are also mostly experiencing similar things. And so to
Yeah.
feel like you're not alone and to
Right.
be in community, that
Exactly.
is beautiful.
Yeah. And I mean, you said it perfectly. The healing process can be very lonely
Hmm.
and painful. So to share that, and yeah, to get support from other women who are going through the same thing, it can be very healing and validating to the parts that are in a lot of pain within you.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Oh, beautiful. I just love that you're doing this work and that you've
Thank
listened to
you.
your own dharma and your own finding your own path and to be helping others on this journey. And I think you're also just a beautiful example of, you can still be a nurse and not work in a
Mhm.
traditional setting. You can still use your gifts and talents and experience to help others walk through this world. So it's beautiful.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. I'd love it in the last few minutes if you have any last thoughts or any messages that you are feeling called to share with our group, mostly women, mostly nurses, if anything's coming to you. Mm.
What's been coming up to me all morning is take the time and take the space to, I feel like it's even like you were doing, it's very powerful, I guess is the word I'm going to use, to just put your hands over your heart,
Mhm.
close
Yeah.
your eyes and focus on your breath. And when you're inhaling, letting it go to your heart center and seeing if there's anything that's coming up. And I feel like this is very useful to do for, at least 10 minutes or so.
Mm.
Um, and this, to tie that in, I feel like I should tie this into purpose.
Yes.
If you spend time doing this with yourself often, or even every once in a while, especially the first time, like what was your first earliest memory,
Mm.
first earliest happy memory? And to just reflect on that, like who was there, what were you doing, and to like do that for several times, in a row during that time with yourself, and
Mm.
um, you'll see a common theme here where you're doing something similar or feeling a certain way, and so you find these patterns and you start to weed out, like, out of these memories, these were the two most profound important things that lit me up.
Mm.
But then you can kind of connect that into what your purpose is. And I think it's just a beautiful experience.
I love that. I will definitely try that. And I have to say,
Yeah.
you lit up when you were talking about that.
Yeah, I love it. I just love telling people or working with people that are
Yeah.
like, I want to do this, but I can't. And
Yeah.
to just be there with them every step of the way,
Mhm. Mhm.
to support them in doing it.
Yeah. And that's such a simple practice. And maybe you don't start out with 10 minutes. Maybe it's
Hmm.
1 to 2 minutes because it
Right.
maybe that's very overwhelming what comes up
Mm-hmm.
initially. And then
Yeah,
almost you train yourself to be able to sit longer and,
exactly.
soak it in and listen and I can just, it's a natural heart opening practice and allows for you to just kind of explore in a safe
Yeah.
place. You're just with yourself. That is a really beautiful suggestion. I feel like a good place for people to start when they're just maybe not quite sure where to start.
Yeah, exactly. And what you were saying kind of again relates to meditation. Like
Yes.
sometimes you just need a minute to be comfortable sitting in silence, doing nothing and being with yourself. So yeah, I could
Yeah.
see it being a really good start, just
Yeah.
taking a few minutes, getting used to your own stillness and presence,
Yeah.
and then letting it evolve over time
Yeah.
and exploring deeper.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of so I was mentioning before we got on that I got Reiki 1 and 2 certified in November, and I've just really been utilizing it on myself, and I do it every night when I go to sleep and then every morning when I get up. But one of my main thing is that I have my hand on my heart, and I
Hmm.
just, as I'm falling asleep and I'm releasing my day and I'm receiving what I need, I am really like turning inward and just allowing that quiet space for myself as I drift off to sleep. And it really has helped improve my sleep because that was one area where I had really been struggling. It's just sleeping consistently through the night. And I've noticed as I've really taken that, I mean, it's probably less than 5 minutes that I'm sitting with myself in quiet, allowing everything just to calm and be with myself is I'm sleeping better. And
Yeah,
you
that's
don't, I don't,
amazing.
you don't necessarily have to be a Reiki practitioner to do that. You could just, in that couple of minutes before you fall asleep, that time is just for you and allowing, to feel what's in your heart and listen and it's
Yeah,
lovely.
it like retrains your mind and your body by creating that stillness. So
Yes.
many benefits.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing
thank you
the
for having
amazing work
me.
you're doing. I know you are helping do some incredible work right now and helping a lot of women on their own journeys. And I'm grateful to be in your sphere.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here and to connect with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Sabrina. And
Thank
great to
you.
have you all on today. And we'll catch you next time.
Sounds
Bye.
good. Bye.